That, my friends, was a common Bengals W. And it feels really good to say that these are common Bengals W's now. What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here for Common Bengals W. I am just so happy. This was a wonderful game. Plenty of stuff to be excited about, plenty of stuff to criticize and build upon as well. The Cincinnati Bengals defeated the San Francisco 49ers by a score of 31-17. And in reality, it should have been way worse. It should have been about 41-17. But the Bengals let a couple of things slip away. If you are here in the live chat, let me know what you think. Let me know how you're feeling. This was a pivotal game for the Cincinnati Bengals in general. Would have been nice if the Ravens lost. That wasn't going to happen. But the Steelers and the Browns both lost this week. Whew. That's big. That's big. And the Steelers may have lost Kenny Pickett, which is unfortunate. We don't ever want to see it like that. We want to beat a full strength Pittsburgh Steelers. But best wishes to him. So let's go ahead and talk about this Cincinnati Bengals win, obviously. Share your thoughts, feelings, emotions on how this is. Tone Stamp says, guess you could say the Bengals were piping in touchdowns. I wish they did pipe in some touchdowns. I would have felt a lot better if they did. Listen, I don't care how the Cincinnati Bengals get wins. They can cheat. The refs can help them. They can do it clean. I don't care. Like, I have people say, you want your team to win clean? No, I don't care. I just want to get on here and act a fool and act like an ass and talk about how much I love the Cincinnati Bengals, how much I love NFL football. Cincinnati Bengals win, and it was largely on the strength of Joe Burrow, but Joe Mixon had a phenomenal game. Jamar Chase had a phenomenal game. T. Higgins is finally stepping up a little bit more. We had the defense bipolar as hell. I got good and bad things to say about the defense, but heading into this season, statistically, Joe Burrow had the highest completion percentage all time for a quarterback. I'm going to check on where those numbers are now. Yeah, he had fallen as of this past week 0.01% below Drew Brees at 67.7%. And Jimmy Garoppolo is tied with him. This game upped that a little bit. I think he may have regained the record for the time being. 28 of 32, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did get sacked 3 times, and we are going to be talking about that. But the other side of the coin, you had Brock Purdy, who we didn't even know until yesterday was going to be playing. Now, I got the feeling probably late Friday that Brock Purdy was going to play. He got put in concussion protocol. It seemed like the Niners did the right thing. He had those concussion symptoms on the plane. They said, let's get you into concussion protocol immediately. And then he was cleared to play for today's game. You knew that Purdy was going to play in today's game if he was like close to doing it. They wanted to lean on him, and they did. He had a successful game with his arm in many ways. But in some other ways, Cincinnati Bengals took care of him. But there are some things I just want to say cannot happen. And I'm shocked of 2 things. I'm shocked that the Cincinnati Bengals were able to win when these 2 things happened, much less hold the San Francisco 49ers to 17 points. First off, Brock Purdy threw for 365 yards. Kittle, 150 yards. Ayuk, 109 yards. Christian McCaffrey had 64 yards. I mean, he did okay on the ground, but he got his 2 touchdowns and all that. You know he's going to score a touchdown. The fact that they were able to keep everybody else out of the end zone was pretty impressive. But it's a matter of preventing the 49ers from even getting into the red zone, because there were so many situations in which the Niners were just within reach of scoring 7, that the Bengals, like, have got to take care of some of that. The pass rush, got to Purdy 2 times, for sacks. There was a lame roughing the passer penalty towards the end, whatever. Only 1 penalty. Fantastic there. Fantastic there. But Brock Purdy, entering this game, had run for 60 yards in his career. Today, he ran for 57. There were 5 or 6 times where he just took off, or 4 or 5 times where he just took off and got first downs, just wide open through the middle. And there's no reason for that if he's also throwing for 365 yards. Because something's got to give in that situation. You either got to stop the run, stop the pass. You got to do one or the other. And really, today the Bengals didn't do either of those. San Francisco rushed for over 113 yards, and they threw for 365 yards. Now, where it benefited the Cincinnati Bengals was the turnovers. I think it was Jermaine Pratt. Jermaine Pratt that had that just point blank interception in the red zone. Yeah, I don't know if I've seen an interception happen in such close proximity before. Like, that was I would love to see different angles of that just to see how we can find out how close that Jermaine Pratt was to Brock Purdy making that happen. Then Logan Wilson as well. We had a scare as well. Trey Hendrickson looked like he was going to be out, but he ended up coming back into the game. There was some stuff that really frustrated me though. Like Brock Purdy slicing and dicing DBs and line. Like Sam Hubbard looked like he was just running in quicksand, chasing after Brock Purdy. That should not be happening. Now, Brock Purdy's a good quarterback, great at sort of managing things, but there were situations in this game where they should have just absolutely stomped on the Niners' throats. BJ Hill picked up a fumble recovery as well. Fumbling was an issue in this game. Really, turnovers for both teams. The Bengals couldn't hold on to the ball, and the Niners just couldn't. My God, the Niners couldn't keep the ball out of the Bengals' hands, quite frankly. Brock Purdy did lose a fumble to BJ as well, but you got to be able to stop the QB run in this division, especially because if Brock Purdy is able to do this to you, my God, man, just imagine what Lamar Jackson's going to do to you later in the season. Tone Stomp says props to Purdy, but this team cannot continue to give up explosive plays at the rate they're doing so. If you mean the Bengals, yeah, I completely agree with you. It seems like it is way too easy for somebody to get 20, 30 yards on the Bengals. It's not usually more than that, right? It's not usually like 40, 50, 60. But like we see these like 15 to 30 yard plays happen with regularity against the Bengals. Then they happen to get 3 straight stops and force a punt or a field goal, or there's some miraculous turnover in the end zone. That defense needs to be a little bit more consistent. I call it the Bengals bipolar defense. And that's what it is. An incredible amount of talent, but also they let these teams have hope way too much. And the San Francisco 49ers had a ton of hope. I mean, as we look at it, like 480 yards of total offense, brother, insane. So let's talk about the good. Let's talk about Joe Burrow. Let's talk about the Bengals being under center. Now, for those of you that don't know what the hell under center is, the Bengals have been playing out of shotgun, which means center hikes the ball to Burrow about 5 feet, however far behind they are, because they had to protect his calf. They weren't going under center because that required more mobility. It required more pressure on Joe Burrow's calf. And here we are, week 8, and it's finally happening. You're getting the Bengals under center, and what that does is it opens up the run game a lot more for one Joe Mixon, who is running the ball 16 times today. Now, I understand that from the shotgun, it was a little more difficult to run the ball with Joe Mixon, but I was saying this week 1, 2, 4, whatever the hell it was, when the Bengals were struggling, and he was getting about 12, 13 carries. He got 19 touches today. 19 touches today, 7.7 average catching, 5.4 rushing. He rushed for that touchdown that really put the dagger in the heart of the San Francisco 49ers. And you can see how excited Joe Burrow was with that play as well. Went around the end and got that. We also saw Travion Williams carry the ball a couple times. Joe Burrow took off a lot more. Joe Burrow also ran for 43 yards. Like, it wasn't just Brock Purdy. Joe Burrow was taking off an awful lot as well, but that run game is complemented a lot more. So when you go from just shotgun to under center, one, it makes it just so much more versatile. You can't predict what's happening nearly as much, and it sets up the play action that really accentuates the run game. It accentuates the pass game. It distracts the defenders, any number of those things. But Joe Mixon getting it done today, big game out of him that helped. Every time Joe Mixon got the ball, outside of a couple little, 2-yarders, it felt like he was mowing dudes down. And I love it. That's what we got to see out of Joe Mixon. I'll tell you what we got to see now. Mike Straw says it. Says the team misses Hurst, big time at the tight end spot. And we got, where is he? Where is he? Irv Smith cut tomorrow. Now, listen, I don't want to wish anybody out of a job or anything like that. I don't know the structure of Irv Smith's contract. But Irv Smith right now is the third best tight end on the team. Now, I will say this. 4 for 4 in receptions. That is a marked improvement, because he was catching just over 50% of his passes heading into this game. Hayden Hurst last year caught 76%. And if you saw me talk about the Bengals last year, that was something I was very excited for, to get Hayden Hurst, was because anything thrown his direction, it's in. It's in. So Irv Smith's percentage is going to go up there. But Drew Sample and Tanner Hudson both outperform him. The fumble that he lost in the red zone could have been catastrophic. It could have been horrible. It could have been real bad. Fortunately, it wasn't. We're very lucky that it wasn't. There was also a play towards the end of the game that was ruled an incompletion that was almost a fumble. This was, after I think it was Jamar Chase fumbled the ball and then recovered it. It was just a mess. The third and fourth quarters were an absolute mess. But Irv Smith Jr. is not good. Hayden Hurst, per his mom, so if you say source, literally his mom says Hayden would love to come back and help out the Cincinnati Bengals defense or offense. Well, so would we. Would they need him in Carolina? For what? He had 2 targets today. 3 last week, 3 the week before, 3. He's getting targeted 3 times. He isn't a good fit there. I don't know how the contract would work, but the Cincinnati Bengals 100% before the deadline this week should be trading a 6th or 7th round draft pick to get Hayden Hurst or Mike Gesicki or some help at the tight end position. Now, I just want to make this clear. And this is what Tone Stomp says. Bengals value their picks way too much, even 6th and 7th rounders. And you don't want to wish anyone loses their job, but you have to look at it from a team perspective. He is hurting them. He is. When's the last time the Bengals have had a draft pick from the 6th or 7th round bear fruit? Bear more fruit than what a Mike Gesicki or a Hayden Hurst or an improvement would be. Brad Robbins has sucked. Really, Yoshi is one of the most. Tyson Anderson, He's played about 6 games. Jeff Gunter, about 10 games. You got Chris Evans, Trey Hill. Trey Hill, plays a little bit. But if you can get Hayden Hurst at 30 years old, barely being used for a 7th, I think you should do it. I think you should absolutely do it. The Bengals in past years before this year have not gotten a lot of value out of their 6th or 7th. And when they do, it's when they have like 3 6th or 7 picks. Like, for example, this year they had 2 6th-round picks. They took Yoshi, and they took Brad Robbins. Because if they didn't have 2, I don't know how that would have went because they did need a punter. Chris Evans and Trey Hill were both 6th-rounders, but they had 2 of them then. Wyatt Hubert didn't end up getting used. Hakeem Adeniji from the 6th round, but I mean, he, is not good. Notably not good. They need to trade for a tight end. Yoshi Voss, man, it was really great to see him in the fold. Tyler Boyd, sorry for the stutter there. Tyler Boyd got a touchdown as well. That's also great to see because Tyler Boyd is likely going to be out next year. He's going to be somewhere else. And I hate to see him go, but it is really nice to see Yoshi there as well. And then they always have, the Joker in the deck as well with Trenton Irwin, who just somehow always steps up whenever he's a wide receiver. But as things stand, Tyler Boyd will be 29 in a few weeks. He'll be going into his age 30 year. He'll be looking to make some money. And the Bengals are probably going to be letting him go. But I think that the output that we've gotten out of him so far, which is, 250 yards out of 7 games, is pretty good, especially when you're leaning so heavily on Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is getting that record. Jamar Chase is after the Bengals season reception record. And he's just blowing away that pace right now. 10 receptions for 100 yards. He's killing it. They're throwing the ball his direction a lot, and he's coming up with it. 12 targets, 10 receptions. T. Higgins had 5 receptions on 6 targets. Boyd 3 on 3. So your 3 Musketeers there, 18 receptions on 21 targets. And even Irv Smith, even though he had those butterfingers, 4 for 4. Trenton Irwin, 2 for 2. Joe Mixon, 3 for 3. Yoshi, 1 for 1. Yeah, Drew Sample with a drop. That one wasn't Joe Burrow's fault. This was an insanely accurate game. Just an unreal accurate game. And that's what we come to expect from Joe Burrow, is that insane accuracy because of that record in which he possesses. TJ Houshmandzadeh in 2017 set the Bengals record for a 112 reception season. And it's so funny because we don't really discuss TJ Houshmandzadeh as far as like all-time great Bengals receivers, because there's been Chad Ochocinco, AJ Green, Carl Pickens, most recently, even Boyd, Higgins, Chase, like Terrell Owens for the 1 year he was with the Bengals was incredible. You just don't talk about him a lot. Peter Warrick was really good, even though he didn't have quite the impact that Houshmandzadeh had. Chris Collinsworth, you would probably say, was above Houshmandzadeh, but Houshmandzadeh had some great years for the Bengals. And that record is coming down. That record is about to go. And Jamar Chase is very clearly eyeing that. So as things stand, let me see how many receptions he has. I think he had 50 going into, or was it 50 including today? No. He is going to obliterate that record. That is obscene, man. And I'll tell you what I like. He isn't like making any bones about it. He's like, this is important to me, and it's a record that I want. He told Renee Paquette, a good friend of the show, Renee Paquette, And yeah, he's got 60 through 6 games. So he needs 52, 52 receptions. Unreal. 52 receptions over the next 10 games. Oh my God, he's going to destroy that. Are there any incentives in his contract for receptions or yards? I do not know that. That's a good question. That's a good question. So my takeaways here: bipolar defense has got to get straightened out. There's no reason the Niners shouldn't have won this game with the amount of offense that they got on the field. They just couldn't execute where the Bengals did execute. The Bengals need a tight end, a good tight end. And when I say that, I don't mean they really need one. They should get one. They should go after one. It looks like they have their next third guy in Yoshi. Joe Mixon having a good season that he needed to have. Burrow back to healthy. The Browns and the Steelers lose. So technically, I can't say technically. Theoretically, the Bengals are in second place. You can't say technically because technically the Bengals lost to the Browns and there's a tiebreaker associated with that. But do I give a shit? No. The Bengals haven't played the Steelers yet. They have scored more points and allowed fewer points than the Steelers. So I would put them above them in the in the standings. But the Ravens 6-2, they're winning the division. The Bengals are playing for a wild card spot unless, something happens to the Ravens and they can't put together wins. If there's something else that I want the Bengals to work on besides that defense, it is holding on to the ball and maximizing the possibility of points. Far too often, the Bengals have turned the ball over with fumbles or Joe Burrow holds onto the ball too long and gets sacked just out of field goal range. Now, that being said, Evan McPherson has got to make 50-yard field goals. We no longer have the Shooter McPherson, the automatic guy that we had in 2021. It is just not the case. It's unfortunately the reality of what we face now. We now have a guy that sometimes struggles to make 50-yarders. Struggles to make 50-yarders. A lot of stuff can happen. The Ravens, when they hit their bye week, I don't know who plays there, but they could lose half a game. They're gonna lose half a game on one of these teams, probably. I find it hard to believe that. And I'll check the Ravens schedule because maybe it's a North game. But it's hard for me to believe that the Ravens will not fall back a game. I think it's the week before Thanksgiving. Yeah, their bye week is they face. Okay, so the Bengals or the Browns face the Ravens next week. The Bengals face the Ravens the week after that. Listen, between those two games and the bye week, I don't think there's any team that is a guaranteed win over the Browns. I don't. The Browns defense is so unreal that I think that keeps them in every game, even with PJ Walker. The Bengals are no longer an automatic win. However, the Ravens are very much structured to beat the Cincinnati Bengals because of how Lamar Jackson runs. The Bengals play the Steelers the week of the Ravens bye week. So somebody's picking up half a game there on the Ravens. That's just going to happen, whether it be the Steelers or the Bengals. Now, obviously, the Ravens are going to want the lesser of those two teams to get that done. I'm just glad after not getting any help in this AFC North for so long, the Bengals finally got a little bit of help today. That made me very, very happy. Now, it would have been great to get that help last week. Would have been great if the Browns weren't gifted a win And I know that our friend Colin, Spencer Steer fan's going to be like, you know how many times the Browns have been screwed? I don't care. I don't care. Hope the Browns get screwed all the time. I don't like the Browns. Not for me. I want the Bengals to win. Well, next week, the Bengals have the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills have to go on the road, but they did have several extra days of rest. They faced a not great Buccaneers team, and the Bills have, the Bills have had it very easy for a little bit. And outside, I mean, since the Giants game, they faced the Giants. The Giants suck. The Patriots should not have beaten them. That should have been a win for them. Bucks are an easy game. Bengals are not an easy game. The Broncos are going to be an easy game, even though they beat the Chiefs. LOL. And they should handle the Jets. Jets should not be beating teams right now. But then it gets very, very, very tough for the Bills. Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys. Those are the breaks, my friends. Some other stats throughout this game. Let's take a little glance, a little look. Joe Burrow, 28 of 32, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns. He got sacked 3 times. Joe Mixon, 87 yards on 16 carries, 5.4 average for a touchdown. Joe Burrow also ran 7.2 per and 43 yards. Last year, he was taking off a lot more. So this makes me happy. Jamar Chase, 10 receptions, 100 yards. T. Higgins, 5 receptions, 69 yards. Tyler Boyd, 3 for 40. You also got Irv Smith in on the action. And that fumble sucked. Logan Wilson with 11 tackles. Sam Hubbard got a sack and a TFL. Only 3 tackles for loss on this game and 2 sacks. There were 7 QB hits, but I got to be real. And 4 passes deflected. There need to be more. There need to be a lot more. They should have been even more dominant on the defensive end. I will be there Sunday night football against the Buffalo Bills. I'm excited for that, not excited for the weather. I'm about to start hitting those cold weather games. FML. Guys, I want to say thank you all so much for joining me. That, my friends, was a common Bengals W.